So you've probably seen Higgsfield popcorn blowing up on your feed. People saying that you can make entire films with just one prompt now, and you don't need to be an expert to create these consistent visuals. That sounds great in theory, but is it actually true? I've wanted to find it out for myself, not with the cherry-picked marketing images, but by actually building an end-to-end AI film using Higgsfield popcorn. If you want to see what I made, you can just skip to this time frame, but this is going to be a breakdown on how to use Higgsfield popcorn to its maximum potential, and I'm also going to give my final thoughts on who is this for and if it's actually worth the marketing hype. So let's get started. So just like any other real production pipeline, we're going to start with ChatGPT, because you're not trying to write a full script, but because Higgsfield needs direction. If you just dump a random prompt into popcorn, you're just going to get random results. So I began by using ChatGPT to generate the film idea, the characters, the setting, and even descriptive prompts for environments and life forms on this fictional planet I wanted to build. Now, before I actually go into the popcorn tab, I need to first create reference images for my mood board. So for my storyline, I had an idea of my main character and a post-apocalyptic world that I wanted that character to be in. So let's build that in the Higgsfield image tab first. Now, testing out and going back and forth between a bunch of models, namely Nano Banana, Seed Dream, and Flux Context, and using my own face as a reference, I built this consistent character. It's also important to note that when you're using Higgsfield in this image section, make sure to toggle on this unlimited button so that you can save credits, and also make sure to select the right aspect ratio. In my case, that was 16:9 because it's a horizontal video. If you're making something for YouTube Shorts, you can just go 9:16. Once you're happy with your character, you can move on into the environment. Using this prompt that I created from ChatGPT, I put it into Higgsfield image tab, again using Nano Banana, Seed Dream, and Flux, and generated a bunch of different variations of what I wanted. Once you're happy with your image, you can move on into the popcorn tab. So the way popcorn works is that there are two modes inside of it. There's one auto mode and one manual mode. And in my experience, you have to go back and forth and use a little bit of both to get the right output you want, as you're gonna see in my workflow. So once again, I'm just gonna go into ChatGPT and create a master prompt for my storyline. This prompt includes my storyline as well as the visual theme of the image. I wanted it to be colorful. I wanted it to be ultra realistic looking. So those are some things I included in the prompt. It's important to note that the more images you're gonna put in as reference here, the lesser options you will have for the output. So if you're putting in 4 reference images, as I did here, you're going to be only able to get 4 images as output. So if you want more images as output, you can just use 1 image, as I'm going to do later in this video. Now I'm going to use my master prompt and I'm going to put it into the auto mode and I'm going to hit generate. My first run in auto mode actually gave me a decent starting point, but it wasn't aligned to my story just yet. So let's switch into manual mode. As we can see here, we need to put a prompt for each shot. I'm going to head back into ChatGPT and ask it to break down my master prompt into shorter prompts that I can copy and paste into these individual segments. Now, as you get the output from this, you're going to notice that you're getting a little bit closer to your goal. But we're not done yet because we don't have our complete storyline. So I'm going to use this incredibly useful button called Use in Popcorn. And what it basically does is that uses those newly generated images as reference for a new mood board. So you can just use this feature to reiterate and continue to make infinite versions of your mood board. As I continued to find more images that I really liked for my storyline, I used them as a reference image and then went into manual mode and then prompted exactly the next shot I wanted. And then I started getting better results from it. Now, as you can see here, it falls flat a little bit on character consistency. In some parts, it's doing great. In some part, it's not doing great. But the best thing here is the whole image in terms of its color grading and image quality and the types of textures and environment. It's incredibly consistent. So I wouldn't use this for consistent characters, but for consistent storylines and environments, it's definitely a great step up compared to something like Midjourney or even use a tool like Comfy UI. So while it is marketed to be a Nano Banana killer, it is definitely not that. As you can see, it's not getting consistent characters. Yes, I can edit these images and change the face in Nano Banana in Paint, but that defeats the purpose of Higgsfield popcorn being there and it being marketed as a Nano Banana killer. Again, let me reiterate, it's definitely a great step up in terms of getting consistent environment, visuals, image quality, the color grading, the textures even, but in terms of character consistency, it's still not there. Once you're happy with all of your images according to your storyline, you can move into the video tab. And before we do that, let me just clear a misconception that we have about AI videos. I see a lot of people making this mistake and they just copy the same image prompt and then put it into the video and then expect the video to be great. And even worse is that sometimes people will not even read the whole prompt, what it's actually saying, and they would just end up wasting credits. So if you want to be efficient about it and not waste credits in regenerations, use the help of ChatGPT, put in your image and tell it what you want. And that works better because it's giving you a prompt for the movement and not exactly a prompt of the composition of the photo. Finally, for the videos, I used a mix of Kling and WAN 2.5, and here's what I would say, that Kling is probably the best in terms of camera movements, and WAN 2.5 is a little bit better in terms of much more detailed movements, and they're much cheaper than Sora and VO3, so you can generate longer scenes without burning out of credits really fast. After generating the videos for all of the frames, you can take it one step further and even upscale them from this tab, but I'm not gonna do that because I was pretty content with my result. And after adding a little bit of music, sound design, and even a voiceover, here's the final video. The command said the planet was dead. Yeah, about that. We spent centuries building metal planets in space, only to find Earth basically turned into a 5-star eco resort without us. God damn it. This is crazy. Can't believe we used to live here. They sent me here to confirm survival status, whatever that means. So here it is. Mission control. This is Traveler 1. Earth is not only habitable, she's thriving. Come quick though, I don't want to die alone. So my final verdict is Higgsfield is not here to replace Hollywood, and it is definitely not a one-click film generator. But if you're a filmmaker, storyteller, editor, marketer, this is a tool that can definitely change your workflow. It eliminates 80% of the time you would spend on creating these storyboards, gathering assets, textures, environments, and references. So this is something that will empower you even further. I don't see it replacing mainstream film or advertising industry anytime soon, but we're going to see it being used more in the workflow. And it's even more important to start learning how to use it. And of course, if you don't have storytelling skills, this will be useless because without those, you're just gonna generate AI slop as there's no barrier to entry anymore. That is it for the video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video.